Who are you?
Name's Panthro.
Panthro Origin, Thundercats. Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. Today we will look at the origin story of Panthro, the team's engineer, mechanic, and its strongest and most technically adept member. Panthro is the creator and the pilot of the mighty Thunder Tank. Although Panthro is a meticulous thinker, he has a short fuse and frequently finds himself in the middle of a conflict or dispute without giving it much thought. From where does his journey begin? Let's find out. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Yes! Smash the fishing boat!
Panthro in the original Thundercats animated series. Panthro is a Thunderian aristocrat who is a member of the Thundercats. He is the next noble and the second eldest after Jaga, serving as the Thundercats' principal mechanic, engineer, and the pilot until Lynx O is presented. His name is a pun on Panther, the animal he is modeled on, and Anthro, a term used to describe a humanoid or human-like attributes. Together with the other Thundercat nobles, Panthro escaped his dying home planet of Thundera on their flagship. Panthro, the ship's pilot, watched as Thundera detonated in front of them. He received brand new clothes and a set of nunchucks from Jaga, along with the other Thundercats, to aid in their transition to their new home. Panthro departed the ship with the other Thundercats to fight against the mutants as they attacked and boarded it. He destroyed a mutant weapon with his own hands, showcasing his impressive strength. Along with the others, Panthro initially disagreed with Jaga's desire to steer the ship alone, but soon concluded that the autopilot could not be trusted. Panthro stepped inside a suspension capsule and saw to it that Snarf did too. One of the most notable episodes of the classic 1985 series was the episode titled Spitting Image. The story begins with the people of Third Earth accusing the Thundercats of being responsible for all the destruction after Mumra develops a Panthro clone that wreaks havoc on the world. The episode starts with Mumra commanding the driller to capture Panthro and bring him to his pyramid in return for jewels inside the Black Pyramid. The driller descends into the cat's lair after leaving the pyramid. He reappears at Panthro's room, where the Thundercat is sound asleep. Panthro awakens, and the two fight briefly until the driller uses sands of sleep to drug Panthro, knocking him out and dragging him beneath. After giving Panthro to Mumra and collecting the second half of his gems, the driller departs from the pyramid. Mumra places Panthro on his cloning machine while he is asleep and turns on the device to cast a model of the Thundercat. Panthro is then lifted into the air and an empty mold is filled with a gas that solidifies into a precise reproduction of Panthro. Mumra causes Hammerhand Spirit to enter his cloned body and come to life by calling it from the bottom of the sea. The wicked mummy commands his clone to terrify the people of Third Earth, and the clone sets off to carry out this command. Mumra exits his pyramid in his ever-living form, bringing the genuine Panthro with him. When Mumra is about to throw Panthro into the bottomless chasm, he briefly regains consciousness. Fortunately, Panthro falls on a ledge situated far down in the abyss. With the help of his shoulder spikes, he begins to climb out of the chasm, being cautious to stay clear of the high-intensity cosmic rays that the chasm produces every 30 seconds. Thundercats continue their fruitless hunt for Panthro in Cat's lair until Lion-O receives a warning from the Sword of Omens that Panthro is in danger and that Mumra has taken him. However, before Lion-O can see the location, cosmic radiation blurs his eyesight. The fruit fields belonging to the Burbles are now on fire, as shown on the television in the control room. Lion-O sends Tigra and Chitara to aid the Burbles while he travels to the Thunder Tank in search of Panthro. As Panthro just about makes it out of the bottomless chasm, Lion-O finally makes it there. When Lion-O puts the worn-out Panthro into the tank, Chitara sends him a message informing him that the Wallows are under attack. As a result, Lion-O rushes to the Wallow village. Lion-O instructs Panthro to transport the tank to the lair while he attends to the situation. The Wolo Traveler states that the Thundercat was the one who caused all the harm as he entered the town and is astonished to discover Panthro there. Panthro insists that he is innocent because he has been in the bottomless chasm the entire time, despite Lion-O's suspicion that he may have done so while under the effects of the driller's medicine. The Wolo approaches Lion-O a short while later to tell him that Panthro has returned and is destroying their community. As soon as Lion-O arrives at the scene, he is astounded to discover Panthro spreading mayhem. He contacts the other Thundercats, believing that his friend could be under some sort of evil sway in the hopes that they might all work together to control Panthro without harming him. The actual Panthro unexpectedly shows up in the Thunder Tank, and the two start fighting. Lion-O wants to assist, but cannot distinguish between the genuine Panthro and the imposter. Then Snarf advises him to wield the sword, because the real Panthro wouldn't be harmed. When Lion-O performs this, the clone is severely burned by the sword and exits the area. Arriving at Mumra's pyramid, the clone Panthro is enraged because Mumra did not grant him enough strength to defeat the Thundercats. The Mumra accuses the clone of being responsible for the failure and declares that he is no longer needed. Mumra claims he can create as many clones as he likes with his mold. The mold is lifted and smashed by the angry clone. He then changes back to Hammerhand, his actual form, and departs. In this episode, we see the Thunder Tank is driven by someone other than Panthro for the first time, in this case Lion-O. Another vital episode involving Panthro was the episode titled Lion-O's Anointment Trial of Strength. In this episode, while being thrilled about his birthday, Lion-O, who turns 20, is also anticipating being named the Lord of the Thundercats. He finds Cat's lair vacant when he awakens, but for Snarf, who tells him to eat as much as he can because his journey is going to be long. Lion-O is the hereditary Lord of the Thundercats, but Snarf emphasizes that he must first establish his merit in order to gain that position. He will be required to compete against his fellow Thundercats in an anointment trial to demonstrate his worth by defeating them all. He must defeat Panthro in a duel to put his strength to the test. The two are pretty evenly matched as Lion-O attempts to deflect Panthro's punches before attempting to retaliate. An earthquake causes boulders to fly in his direction, interrupting the trial. In an effort to halt a rock from triggering a landslide that would destroy a nearby community, Panthro is about to be crushed. Running to assist him, Lion-O is able to move the boulder himself. Lion-O has successfully demonstrated his strength, and Panthro is pleased with him. He gives him the Thundercat symbol off his belt. In the episode titled The Shifter, we see Vulture Man has just finished building a contraption at Castle Plundar that allows individuals to switch bodies, and he uses it to exchange Panthro and Snarf's bodies, who are both by themselves at Cat's lair. The mutants use this opportunity to assault the Thundercats and then use the flying machine to get to Cat's lair. Panthro and Snarf try to figure out what happened as they struggle with their exchanged bodies back at Cat's lair. They decide to ask their friends for assistance and leave in the Thunder Tank. Still, they cannot correctly manage the vehicle and find themselves perched dangerously on top of the bottomless chasm. The mutants flying overhead spotted and shot the tank, forcing it to crash into a ledge inside the bottomless chasm. Snarf, who is actually Panthro, gets stuck beneath the Thunder Tank, but Panthro, who is actually Snarf, is able to escape and make his way directly to Cat's lair. Later on, Lion-O and Wily Cat manage to save them by defeating the mutants and sending them running with their tails tucked between their legs. Amazing story arc of Panthro from Thundercats' 1986 comic. The Thundercats superhero comic book series was created based on the original television series of the same name. Marvel Comics first released it in 1985 under the Star Comics banner, and it ran for 3 years and 24 issues. One of the first issues focusing on Panthro as the main character was issue number 3, Panthro Stands Alone. In the comic book, to replenish the Thundrillium that powers the Thundercats' lair and their vehicles, which is running short, Panthro travels alone to their primary quarry. While the Thunder Tank is also running low on fuel, Panthro chooses against cutting off power to the lair and opts to refuel at the quarry instead. When a gang of rockmen confronts a single warrior maiden on his travels, Panthro is startled out of his reverie. The Rockmen are furious that the young lady has trespassed into their sacred territory and demand that she be sacrificed to their gods as retribution. Fearful, the warrior maiden proceeds to remove exquisite silver rings from each finger of her hand. But this activity is cut short by Panthro's intervention, who fights off the Rockmen. The warrior maiden asks Panthro why he doesn't utilize the Thunder Tank's armaments to fend off the Rockmen, and Panthro explains that the Thunder Tank is nearly out of power. Panthro retreats inside a cave, using the remainder of the Thunder Tank's energy to fire its lasers at the cave's entrance, forcing the entry roof to collapse and trapping the Rockmen within. The warrior maiden tells Panthro that her name is Tessa and that she used to live peacefully with her sisters in their treetop hamlet. The Rockmen begin to burst through the seal inside the cave while she and Panthro converse. The Sword of Omens warns Lion-O of Panthro's danger at the Thermostone quarry. The young lord is about to summon the other Thundercats when he recalls the earlier lesson about not calling everyone whenever he wanted. Lion-O rushes into the forest to aid Panthro alone, but is swiftly trapped by live vines threatening to tear him apart. There appears to be no way out once separated from the sword. Tessa is worried that the Rockmen may soon burst through the barrier of the cave. Panthro has been experimenting with the Thunder Tank and has devised a method to drain Tessa's energy strength to serve as a substitute for Thundrillium, allowing them to flee the Rockmen and freeing Tessa from the dangers of launching unintentional energy blasts. Tessa is afraid that removing her rings may threaten Panthro's life, but the Thundercat convinces her that she doesn't have much choice. Tessa obeys Panthro's command. The Rockmen, led by a tribal chieftain, appear to be about to breach into the cave and assault, when the Thunder Tank smashes through and releases a shower of lasers. Tessa explains that she is now free of her abilities as the Rockmen escape. Meanwhile, Lion-O is still trapped by vines, but he frees himself by digging deep into the earth and breaking off the vine's roots. Lion-O uses sight beyond sight to determine if Panthro and Tessa are safe. Happy that they are safe, Lion-O is also disappointed that the two fled without his assistance. Tessa is welcomed back to the treetop settlement of the warrior maidens, where she confesses to Panthro that she owes him everything and gives him one of her silver rings to cherish as a reminder of her. Oh yes, they kissed as well. His story in 2011 Thundercats reboot of the original 1980s TV series. Little is known about Panthro's early past, except that he was a Thunderian army soldier in his childhood, beginning as a catapult loader. During the Lizard War, he, Groon, and Claudus met in a thick of combat for the first time. Panthro and Groon would advance through the ranks of the Thunderian army, finding glory in battle and brotherhood alongside each other until they became generals. Still, only one could take command of the army. Claudus eventually promoted Lynx-O to general before sending Groon and Panthro in quest of the Book of Omens, much to Groon's chagrin. Panthro and Groon's journey would take them far beyond any Thunderian's previous travels on Third Earth. They would encounter all sorts of beasts and warriors, but to no avail, because the book would not be found. Groon began to doubt his commitment to Claudus while traveling, feeling that Claudus had just sent him and Panthro to rid his kingdom of them, and over time, much to Panthro's surprise, he began to lose his sanity. Groon would hear voices tempting him, offering ultimate power along the road. He would then guide Panthro to the source of these sounds, promising him they would accomplish greatness along the road, finally taking him through the sand desert and into the Black Pyramid Temple. The voices would get louder as they approached. They then entered a chamber furnished with black goods and a sarcophagus in front of them. Panthro tells Groon not to open it as he begins to do so, but it is too late to stop him. Panthro then watches in horror as an undead creature approaches them, realizing that Groon has released the Thundercats Empire's nightmare, Mum-Ra. Groon then joins Mum-Ra in taking control of Thundera and retrieving the Sword of Omens. Groon invites Panthro to join them, but knowing that he has lost his dearest buddy, Panthro assaults him. A conflict ensues between the two erstwhile buddies, and as Panthro begs Groon to stop this lunacy, Groon pushes him down a deep hole while Mumra chuckles in joy. After several days of malnutrition and misery, Panthro eventually made his way out of the pit and out of the harsh desert. He would subsequently continue his trek across Third Earth, ending up as a slave in the City of Dog. There, he would fight in an arena known as the Pit and make friends with a dog slave named Dobbo. In the arena, he and Dobbo fought together as partners. However, after learning that they would be fighting to the death, Panthro fled to defend his companion. Panthro wanted to return to Thundera and prevent Mumra and Groon from destroying it along the way, but it was too late. Over time, he became acquainted with technology and began to learn its ways, and he eventually came upon the Thunder Tank, which he rather enjoyed piloting. However, along the journey, he encountered and saved the lives of the newly created Thundercats Lion-O, Tigra, Chitara, Wily Cat, and Wily Kid. He joined them and followed them in their search for the Book of Omens. They sensed that the Thunder Tank would run out of Thundrillium while hunting for the Book of Omens and attempted to rescue more from Cloud Peak Mine, where Mumra's soldiers were mining it. Panthro learned about Claudus's death along the road and began to mistrust Lion-O's status as king. He would take charge of the group since he felt Lion-O was too young and unprepared to be king. In the mine, Panthro came into contact with none other than Groon while battling a group of lizards. He confessed to the Thundercats about his betrayal and how he had liberated Mumra before openly mocking him by saying, "All those deaths and you're still not the king." Groon and his men would retreat while tasked with destroying the Thundercats using Driller, a drilling machine. Driller was quickly slain by Lion-O, who was now brandishing the Sword of Omens, but the mine was destroyed in the process. Panthro was impressed by Lion-O's bravery and talent after he managed to escape the mine and retrieve some Thundrillium. He eventually acknowledges him as the new leader of the Thundercats. In fact, when Lion-O searched for the book, he stumbled upon the Tower of Omens. The Thundercats had to evade several booby traps as they entered the Tower of Omens before they could reach the Book of Omens. They finally managed to get the book, but it turns out to be empty. But before they could get their hands on it, Mumra showed up with a Jaga who looked to be alive and whose soul was imprisoned within a light. Panthro, underestimating Mumra, left to battle him while the others went to get the book. Mumra easily defeated Panthro and the other Thundercats once he changed into his actual form. However, before he could murder Lion-O, Jaga changed into a powerful beam of light, forcing Mumra the ever-living to run away. But in doing so, Jaga also perished. Lion-O is seen dozing off on the floor the following morning while practicing in the Tower of Omens. When he wakes up, he reveals that his consciousness has merged with the book, allowing him to relive the events of his ancestor Leo, the first Lord of the Thundercats, who had previously overthrown Mumra. He also reveals that 4 other Power Stones, in addition to the Eye of Thundera, must be discovered to unite all the animals and overthrow Mumra. They assisted a group of robot bears dubbed the Burbles escape from the slave trader Conqueror as they started looking for the stones. They also became great friends with Panthro and even assist him in repairing his Thunder Tank. They pass an elephant community on the way. They would learn about peace and focus from the village's elephant leader, Annette, as they assisted in purging the community of a stone giant and a wraith nest. In addition, he helps Lion-O see beyond the physical realm, but he also advises him to visit the forest of Magi Ore so he can do so in unison. Panthro confesses his dread for the forest's spiritual occupants upon arriving there. They successfully aided the forest guardian Viragor in his victory over the wood forgers. They are able to drive Groon and the lizards out of the village while Panthro vows to defeat Groon eventually. The first Power Stone, the Spirit Stone, which is located in a portal within a hut in the elephant village and goes to the astral plane, is found by Lion-O when he returns to the elephant community. Tigra would offer to enter the hut with Lion-O once the entrance was opened, but before Lion-O and Tigra entered, Annette foresaw that Tigra would turn on Lion-O, raising suspicion among the Thundercat. Then, they would ferociously defend the cabin from Groon and the army of lizards. When Groon shows up, he and his old friends start fighting. After determining that they are evenly matched, they decide to resolve the conflict by using hand-to-hand combat. The day Groon taught Panthro that any sacrifice is worth the conquest of your opponent, Panthro also told Wily Kit and Wily Cat how Groon lost his tooth to Spidera. Groon and Panthro's arms are drawn in with Groon as the portal starts to collapse after Tigra and Lion-O bring the Spirit Stone back from the astral plane. Groon begs Panthro to liberate them or they would both perish while still clutching onto him. Instead, Panthro remembers Groon's maxim, any sacrifice is worth the conquest of your opponent, and finally sacrifices his arms to vanquish Groon. Panthro is then brought to the Burbles hamlet where they try to construct artificial arms for him. The first set, which only consisted of Burbles' arms, shocked Panthro. The following experienced a little malfunction and hit him in the face. As soon as everything was resolved, Panthro stole the Thunder Tank, which the Burbles had significantly modified, and used it to defend Lion-O, Tigra, and Chitara from Slythe and the new generals Kanar and Atticus by punching all three of them out. As the Thundercats sought the next Power Stone, Lion-O's faulty judgment quickly brought them into Mumra's trap, where he was killed by falling over a cliff, while the other Thundercats were taken prisoner. Tigra, now the Thundercats' leader, assisted the group in escaping and pledged to retrieve the Sword of Omens. Tigra advised them to launch a surprise attack as they approached Mumra's pyramid, but he warned that doing so would only result in their capture by Mumra. However, Lion-O, who the Spirit Stone had revived, follows Wily Kit's marks to reach Mumra's pyramid. He deceived Atticus, Kanar, and Slythe, set the other Thundercats free, and then led them into combat with Mumra. Lion-O got the Sword of Omens and could harm Mumra with it because of the Spirit Stone. After that, the group was able to leave the pyramid. When dawn eventually broke, Jaga's ghost appeared and told them to continue their quest. When the Thundercats ask Lion-O how he survived the fall, he responds that he went through a series of trials with the help of the Spirit Stone, which helped him grasp what it meant to be a genuine king. Tigra and Lion-O moved out to seek the mountains, while Panthro was left with Chitara, Wily Kit, and Wily Cat to search the forest areas in quest for the next Power Stone. Panthro thought it was time for the twins to become self-sufficient, so he and Chitara taught them how to forage for food. In a competition between boys and girls, Wily Kit and Chitara joined forces, while Wily Cat and Panthro went in search of food. Wily Cat allowed the grazing Chip to escape free when Panthro was trying to educate him about tracking and using traps because he couldn't bear the thought of murdering another animal. In an effort to kill another Chip, Chitara teaches Wily Kit how to hide their odors. However, Wily Kit also disrupts the hunt because she could not kill the animal. The kittens were getting on their nerves, so Panthro and Chitara decided to have them forage for food on their own, or they wouldn't be allowed to sleep in the Thunder Tank. As the twins spared the Chips that evening and returned triumphantly with a delightful wealth of fruit, Chitara and Panthro now think the two have the ability to sustain on their own. After they reunite with the other Thundercats, they travel to the City of Dogs, where Panthro revisits several of his past experiences. They come across Poohmyra, a cat refugee who is being made to fight as a gladiatrix in the pit. Watching the games, they see Poohmyra triumph over the robot Gormax with outstanding prowess. As Panthro welcomes his old buddy, Lion-O asks who is in control of the arena and is directed to see Dobbo, who is now in command and won't give up Poohmyra because he thinks she is too precious to lose. Dobbo claims that to be liberated, she must triumph in 100 battles. Lion-O doesn't like Dobbo's decision and chooses to sneak into the prison and free Poohmyra. However, when he tries to do so, Poohmyra yells angrily and gets him caught, because she holds him accountable for Thundera's demise and selling their people as slaves. Dobbo informs Panthro and the others that Lino will be set free if he wins this battle, as he hands back the sword and gauntlet. In order to avoid a problem with the dogs, Panthro, Chitara and Tigra are unable to act. Instead, they attempt to persuade Dobbo to release the dogs. Dobbo declines and recalls how Panthro had once made his escape one night, leaving Dobbo all by himself with all the enemies they had amassed while they were enslaved. Pumaira and Lino engaged in combat, but Lino chose not to confront her because he was devoted to his people, and Pumaira beats him mercilessly. The gang begs Dobbo to halt the fight, but he refuses, until Panthro reveals that he had departed that night because he was frightened of having to kill Dobbo. Dobbo claims that this struggle demonstrates the lack of devotion among cats. He lets them live and gives them their freedom after discovering why Panthro departed and seeing Pumaira and Lino's faithfulness. After old wounds have completely healed and new companions have been created, Lino asks Pumaira where the other cats that Lizard stole are now, to which she responds Mount Plundar, as she gestures to an intimidating-looking mountain. Appearance, personality, and powers of Panthro. Panthro is the eldest Thundercat and the only one who has visited the greater globe of Third Earth, claims writer-producer of the 2011 series Michael Jelenic. His waist is thin and tapers down from his well-muscled upper torso. The lower skull is surrounded by a ring of dark brown hair drawn back like a warrior's tail. The hair then falls into two stunning mutton chops down his face. His right shoulder, chest, and right eye are all covered with scars. His left shoulder also bears a scar in the form of a star. Panthro wears a somewhat plain outfit with a black waistcoat with spikes along the front, red-brown shoes that leave the claws exposed, and the red-brown wrist guards with studs. The fact that Panthro is an influential veteran with a hardened temperament and no-nonsense attitude is his most noticeable quality. He is well known in Thundera for being exceptionally devoted to the throne and Claudus. It was demonstrated, for example, how his relationship with Groon impacted his outlook on life and his conviction that success is worth any cost. During the battle at the Elephant's camp, he sacrificed his arms in order to ensure that Groon was either killed or imprisoned in another reality when the entrance to the astral plane burst. The scars were the only things Panthro regretted losing, since there was a lot of history in them. These sacrifices, however, are exclusive of himself, in contrast to Groon, who intentionally makes sacrifices of others in order to win. He also fears heights, something he was unaware of until he attempted to pilot the feliner. Of all the Thundercats, Panthro is possibly the strongest. His physical strength is such that he has, in many instances, even lifted the massive Thunder Tank. Panthro is a skilled martial artist who, in addition to having tremendous strength, can easily defeat any foe in a hand-to-hand combat. In addition to his brute strength, Panthro is a skilled technician and a brilliant thinker. Almost anything, including cars, guns, and numerous devices, may be built or repaired by him. His exceptional technical abilities have frequently given the Thundercats an advantage over their adversaries, the mutants, who rely primarily on archaic technology. With Tigra's assistance, he constructs all Thundercats' vehicles on Third Earth, including Thunder Tank, Feliner, Thunder Claw, Thunder Strike, and Hovercat. Panthro uses a pair of nunchucks with a red and a blue end, shaped like claws when fighting, but instead of employing several fast strikes and distracting nunchuck twirls to take down his opponents, he employs massive crushing punches that are more comparable to a flail than nunchucks. The Burbles created two mighty extended cybernetic arms for Panthro after he lost his arms in the fight with Groon. He is also revealed to have been skilled with a sword when he was younger. Panthro's primary flaw is his fear of bats. Panthro has an absurd phobia of bats, and he regularly stops in shock at even the tiniest sight of one. Villains like Mumra and Safari Joe have frequently utilized this weakness against Panthro. Anthony Mackie wants to play Panthro in Thundercats live-action reboot film. Godzilla vs. Kong filmmaker Adam Wingard will lead a live-action remake of the Thundercats franchise. Fans have been ecstatic about the news of the long-awaited live-action Thundercats movie since the announcement, which comes years after a planned Thundercats movie failed to gain approval. Anthony Mackie, a regular actor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, talked about his desire to portray Panthro in the Thundercats film and his early love for the show. Mackie stated his intention to play the lead in a Thundercats movie while attending the Fan Expo in New Orleans earlier this year via Joe Brooklyn. The MCU star recalls watching the cartoon series as a child and expressed his desire to portray Panthro in a film, drawing comparisons between his prospective selection and that of Kelsey Grammer's in X-Men: The Last Stand. Since 2007, when a CGI project from Spring Creek Productions was initially envisioned, studios have been attempting and failing to produce a Thundercats film. This project lingered in a development limbo for 3 years before being formally shelved. Over the years, test videos and concept drawings for the CGI movie have surfaced. Still, aside from Mila Jovovich, who said she would be interested in portraying Chitara in a live-action film, news of a prospective big-screen adaptation mostly died with the original project. That is, until early last year, when Warner Brothers revealed plans of a new live-action Thundercats movie with Godzilla vs. Kong director Adam Wingard hired to helm a screenplay he's co-writing with longtime partner Simon Barrett. Since this revelation, no further information about the Thundercats live-action movie has been made available, although Mackie's wish to play Panthro in the production is timely. Since no cast is announced for the film, the MCU veteran may add some relevant star power to the cast to attract viewers to the theater. If Mackie will be able to fulfill his childhood fantasy of playing the lead in a Thundercats movie, only time will tell. Fun fact: the 2011 Panthro character design is quite similar to Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop. Both characters are remarkably similar in terms of personality, baldness, facial hair, a characteristic scar across their right eyes, and the acquisition of prosthetic limbs.
You'll have my loyalty when you show me you can do more with that sword than just carry it around.
Marvelous verdict. Panthro is, without a doubt, the Thundercat with the most aggressive nature. Panthro is never the one to start a quarrel, but he has no fear of conflict. While this may make him rather obstinate, his never-say-die attitude can also be a terrific motivator for others. On the other hand, Panthro's warrior tendencies are tempered by gentleness and compassion, which gives his personality the ideal balance. Panthro enjoys working on equipment and has a nearly paternal attachment to the Thunder Tank, which he guards fiercely and frequently, referring to it as his baby. Panthro is always a force to be reckoned with since he is a real warrior. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Just gonna take her up nice and easy.